So I'm switching back to Intel. Why? Because I'm a shill, obviously. Introducing the XTM3 from Fantex, micro ATX chassis built for power and performance. Compact yet packed with potential, the XTM3 features support for rear connect motherboards, dedicated radiator space at the top, and triple fan locations at the bottom to help keep your GPU cool. With its innovative layout and sleek, clean design, the XTM3 is ready to take on almost any gaming PC configuration and cooling challenge. Check out the link in the description for more details. Okay, honest time, that was obviously satire right there. This is not an Intel sponsored video. Intel has no idea I'm making this video. In fact, I remember the last time I talked to Intel, to be honest. It was probably when the last Arc GPUs launched, and it's not even the CPU team. We know Core Ultra is not like a huge proposition value for gamers. We know that for productivity, it does pretty damn well. In fact, really well, considering the fact that they got rid of hyper-threading on Core Ultra. But it's one of those things that it's got me thinking, like, I've said this in a recent podcast, even when we were talking with like Rob Teller on our fireside chat from Height. I said, you know, we know 9800X3D is GOAT, right? I'm running a 9950X3D at home. It's the best processor for both worlds. It is pretty damn close to a 9800X3D when it comes to gaming performance. A few percent below that, that's just because of the latency with the Infinity Fabric, right? That's always gonna be kind of the case. But I also do things at home that need the CPU horsepower. And so I wasn't willing to make that trade-off of like, well, have the absolute best gaming CPU on the planet that also performs near the bottom of the charts when it comes to productivity. I mean, that's a huge compromise. Intel does really well at productivity. Now, this is not to lead into say, because it's my work computer, I'm gonna be doing Intel now. No, it's just, the discussion always is about gaming. But I want to like truly experience right now, is Intel as bad as everyone says? Now, this isn't the first time I've done this. I've done a lot of switching my work computer into a different platform to really get to use it for 30 days and say, is it worth it? Is it as bad as people say, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a little different because the last time I did that was when, I don't remember if it was Ryzen 2000 series, it might have been 1000. It was a long time ago in the old studio that had the windows behind me, et cetera. It was a long time ago. But I remember like I was running X299 systems then. That shows you how far removed it's been since then. Like Intel doesn't even make an HPDE, like high performance, or HPDT, doesn't make a high performance desktop option anymore. So at the time, even then my system was never the best for gaming, because having a K SKU that could overclock would have always been better for gaming than any of the X299 stuff was. But it was about big overkill systems. But in terms of day-to-day use, I wanted to know, is Ryzen good? Like, is AMD's Ryzen worth switching to for a full-time system? So of course I did a 30-day experiment that was like, I'm gonna run Ryzen only, and report back if it's good or not. But the difference is, Ryzen was on the rise. It's in the name, Ryzen. Anyway, Ryzen was on its ascent into greatness, which obviously led to where we are today. Intel is on its descent into oblivion. So it's a different story, right? So it's not necessarily, is this worth jumping on because it's gonna get better over time? It's just, is it as bad as people say it is? So we've run a lot of experiments for Core Ultra. I've run tests, I've done gaming stuff on it, I've done productivity stuff on it. And this is gonna be interesting where on benchmarks, yeah, we can see that it's definitely not as good as an X3D CPU when it comes to gaming. In fact, it's something in the double digits, like 20% slower kind of a thing. There's been BIOS updates and stuff over time that have increased some of the performance for Intel, but they advertise it's like 15% improvement. Hardware Unboxed was like 2% improvement maybe, right? But the problem is AMD improved too. So it's just the goalposts keep moving, right? I'm not going to be benchmarking. I am going purely off of the subjective day-to-day use. And I can tell you, my 9950X system here, this is not an X3D, this is 9950X, because my home system is a 9950X3D, has been great. Except for one thing, and I don't know why it's doing it, and it's driving me absolutely insane. This thing takes about 5 minutes to boot, and it's not memory training. There's something weird with the BIOS. Allow me to explain. And I've updated my BIOS, and it hasn't fixed the problem. When you turn on your system, there's boot priorities and boot orders and stuff. And some USB devices can interfere with that. Some USB device, like for instance, the Lian Li's wireless fan controller. If you plug it into the back into your motherboard, the motherboard thinks it's a bootable drive, or at least tries to boot off of it, and it keeps communicating with it like, hey, are you there? Hey, what are you? I see you're a drive. It's not a drive, but it's like, I see you're a drive. Do you have a bootloader? Hello? 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 And then finally goes, okay, well, I guess you're not a bootloader, and then goes off and boots on another drive. USB devices can do that, like keyboards and mice and certain stuff. If I unplug all USB, it still does it. But Jay, what about network boot? There's a network boot too. You can boot a system off of a network drive. It's disabled. This is the same computer too that Phil has seen. It's like, I'm gonna turn you off. Would turn itself right back on. That was due to our printer. Our printer was, because I had software installed on here for our HP printer, and that software kept like, somehow the printer was able to, over our wired Ethernet, wake on LAN, because it kept wanting to communicate with the software. So I had to go in and disable wake on LAN, which is fine, except it kept doing it, even with wake on LAN disabled. And it wasn't until I did another BIOS update where that problem stopped. So I've been dealing with stuff like that. I'm just really getting sick of the boot time on this, because what happens is I turn it on and then I get the little cursor in the corner. Just blink, 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 blink. That's an indicator that it's trying to load a bootloader off something that doesn't have one. And it takes it forever to move forward. And then what happens is every now and then, it doesn't move forward. It just sits there infinitely. And then I have to do the long press on the power button, which sometimes fixes it. Otherwise, a power cycle is needed to fix it. And yes, obviously I've gone in and made sure the boot order is set to the Windows drive. There's only one bootloader, and there's only one drive that has a bootloader in this system. So I'm kind of at a loss here as to why that's happening. So to be honest, that's one of the main reasons why I'm like, well, might as well run this experiment now. And I'll tell you right now, if Core Ultra is smooth and I can't tell a difference in gaming and stuff, I'm just gonna keep it in here, to be honest. Not only that, I can take the 9950X and throw it in my water cooling test station, which I've been wanting to throw in there because 9000 series is a little better, allowing me to tweak things and kind of lock it down. 7000 still has some of the fresh GPU or CPU series quirks with it. So that was a very long way to say I only get my GPU and my drive out of here, honestly. I'm not reusing any of this. I'm building in a different system. So here's the parts I'm gonna use. Just stuff I grabbed off the shelf. I'm not doing anything crazy. So just a Maximus Hero, not much. Honestly, there's a reason. It's the only Z890 board I have other than this one right here from MSI. And I'm bothered by it because it has scratches right there, because in transit, this had kind of come loose and it was like scratching right there. It's that shallow of a reason as to why I'm not using this. That's got a 285K in it right there, but I also have another 285K in the sleeve, which means I get to play around with CU DIMMs for the case. Don't want to go with the dual chamber because this PC is on the floor in my office, even though I have very shallow, like corporate floor carpet, whatever, nice, not thick, fuzzy stuff. It picks up dust and stuff from the floor, no matter what. So I'm actually gonna switch away from the dual chamber. I'm gonna run the Haven BF360, which stands for big fan, I think. But anyway, that's just because it's there. I'm kind of going with a all blacked out sort of a build. So just to sort of show you, the aesthetics I truly don't care about, but it's just kind of working out this way, to be honest. This board is so ridiculously overkill. Like I said, it's the only Z870 board that I have. That's a bit chunky and ridiculous. And then the Z5CK is at 8400. That gloss black looks so nice. Yeah, so this is 48 gigs, I think. I think it's two 24 gig sticks. Anyway, there's that. Obviously I'm gonna run a 285K. I already said I'm gonna go with BF360. Here's some 14 or 140, I almost said 14 centimeter. I've never really called it that. Here's 140 millimeter fans, which I'm gonna throw on top of the Be Quiet Silent Loop 3, because it's a 420 millimeter, which will fit in the top of that. And then I was thinking about changing up the fans just so that I know they all match, because it bothers me, and these are also really thick fans, but we'll see. I might just leave it. Yeah, and then GPU and drive are coming out of there. I'm not going to reuse, I don't think I'm not going to, like, the RGB and crap in this, I don't care. I'm not going to reuse the streamers or any of that stuff. This was just a fun build that I put together, but it's totally unnecessary. And then power supply. Yeah, this is a white Lee & Lee Edge, so I'm going to grab a different power supply. All right, let's build it. So I kind of wanted to point this out for anyone that's wondering. I know the RAM's kind of in the way. So this is all the hardware to hold down the AIO for Be Quiet. But this is kind of unique where Be Quiet uses the exact same hardware to hold down their AIO as their air coolers. So like right now, if I wanted, I could go over and grab like a Dark Rock Pro or whatever and just, it would go right on there. And because the screws are retained in the AIO to just mount down to that same mechanism. So I think that's pretty ingenious actually, and less wasteful to have different hardware for your AIO versus your air cooler. Like you've already got all the heights figured out, you've already got all the gaps figured out and the mounting mechanism. Why not adapt that part to use one single set of hardware that works across their entire line? It's not an ad, it's a neat thing. I just never really kind of noticed it till right now. Please tear off tape before you use it. Yeah, don't forget to do that. All right, back to the build. It's so important to make sure things fit. So I forgot, yeah, you can fit a 420 in this case if you have the front brackets for it. But the top only supports a 280 or a 360. So I went through all that effort to get the 420 set up. 420s are sick. They're so big and fat and juicy. But not when they don't fit. So I do have this. I do have the Pure Loop 360, or excuse me, the 360 Pure Loop 3. This is also a Pure Loop 3 right here. A little bit different pump design though. This one was RGB though, which would have been nice and pretty. That one's all blacked out. So I could just switch to that, but I don't have the Haven 120mm fans that match that, which would have made me feel like aesthetically knowing all the fans match, but that's not even that big of a deal. So now I get to switch it out. Now, fortunately, I think the hardware is identical on this to what I just showed you, how they use the same, and I've never opened this, how they use the same hardware as their air cooler. Let me verify that here. Then it's a pretty easy swap. Just literally take the fans off that, put the stock ones back on, put it back in the box. But see, even though you can build so many systems in a lifetime, you still can get got by things like this because we assume certain things. This just looks so puny, though. I wanted this thing. Me and a friend, you know, it's whatever. Check your measurements and check your compatibilities. It's not a whole lot of cases that can fit a 420, damn it. It's really hard to deny the sexiness of just a like all black build like this. The only lighting that's gonna be in here, like I said, is the GPU. It has a little bit of edge lighting plus a little screen right there. And then whatever the motherboard kind of has going on. And I can turn all that off if I want. The back end, very clean. We only have one SATA plug, device plugged in, which is for the built-in hub. Then we have the 24 pin, two of the EPS 8 pin, and then obviously our 12 volt 2x6. So it's really clean and easy to maintain. If I need to get in there and change any parts, because like I said, this is a work system, right? So ease of accessibility is important. For such an expensive motherboard, it's weird that Asus chose to go with a 2.5 gig and a 5 gig. So I have a choice. I either, until I get myself a 10G switch or a 10G NIC, I don't know where, I had one. And then the system I built, like the other board that's in the other system, has a 10G built into it. It's just weird that such an expensive motherboard chose 2.5 and 5. I would have expected 2.5 and 10. So that's really odd. That's besides the point though. So I either need to order a 10G NIC off of Amazon, which I've done before, but I have some, I just don't know where they are. And then what I need to do now is fire this up, and then we'll see whether or not this Windows 11 install, which should have no problem whatsoever, honestly, reconfiguring its own drivers and stuff to work. I could actually hop on the wireless with this too and be just fine, because we do have tri-band here. So this would be the only device on the 6 gigahertz network, with the exception of my phone, maybe Phil's phone or whatever. Little things like that you got to think about. I was like, oh crap. Because I didn't even think about the internet until Phil pointed out it's a 2.5 and a 5G, not a 10G. Our switch doesn't, it's a multi-gig switch. Actually, no, I take that back. I have one switch that's dedicated to all 10G, and then another switch is for all the 1G devices. Now the stuff that uses the 10G around here, the 10 gig, is my system, Phil's system, and the servers. I haven't actually been having to access big files on the server a lot these days, so a 1 gig connection would still be fine if I wanted to go into the rack and then just move my lead into the 1G switch. But I think I'll just hop on the wireless for now, and I'll order a 10 gig. That way, if I ever have to move any raw data or something, I'm dealing with 30, 40, 50 gigabytes of file, I'm not waiting because it's locked at, what would it be, like 100 megabytes a second, somewhere around there. But those 10G NICs are like 30 bucks. They're not expensive. So I'm gonna put these 2 screws back here, and then we'll go over there and plug it in. Okay, so this is the first boot, which should automatically just set itself up. So let's see. There's a white LED, a white and a red. That's always lovely. Cool, remove, and green light and blue light. Yay! So I might have to go in and set the boot priority, although the top drive should automatically, oh, there go the fans really kicking up. I need to adjust the fan curve. I don't need these running so loud. Oh, I just thought of something though. I'm kind of stupid. I plugged the fans for the AIO into the same header that's controlling the front. I'm gonna want the AIO to be able to ramp up separately from the front fans. I can move all that later, that's fine. There's definitely some BIOS updates and stuff that need to happen with this, but it booted into Windows and now it's just a black screen. So might have a driver problem? Great. The monitor's on, it's all black right now. It just restarted. So let's see what's, this might be a shorter video than I thought. It's just me putting everything back on the other system. All right, everything's working. Once I did a BIOS update and then updated the ME engine, then everything, or the ME firmware, which is management engine, specifically for Intel CPUs, it's all working now. This is the first time we've actually had like the OS not allow us to do anything, or like it wouldn't actually load into the OS unless we were in safe mode without the management engine updated. And then the crazy part is, even in safe mode, it still wasn't working right. Like if I hit Windows and start typing, right, that works. But what I was dealing with in safe mode is I would hit the Windows button and start typing and nothing would happen. But then if I clicked up here, what I typed would then show up. So it was really weird stuff. And then trying to install drivers and stuff in the in safe boot was just automatically, like if I double click the launcher for say installing the chipset for the motherboard, it just would instant close. And then I tried to install the, actually I tried to install the chipset. It said something error happened basically. It was like something errored. Literally it's all it said, unknown error. And then I couldn't install the network driver. I couldn't install wireless, couldn't install any of that. Nothing would work. Installed the BIOS update. It didn't do the ME automatically. So we had to download the ME zip, put the zip file on the drive, on the USB stick, install the new ME firmware. Now everything's working just fine. Another clue that the ME was what was actually our problem was in safe mode, our CPU speed was only running at the base clock, like 3.69 gigahertz or whatever it was. So that was another clue, like, okay, something's not right here. So just installing the ME, which is funny, is that means somehow Windows, like the updates and stuff on this Windows machine, like somehow went beyond where the motherboard was, which is super weird to me, because the BIOS and the ME matched, obviously, because they're out of the board. It was like, the firmware or the BIOS version on this was like 09003 or something like that. And the new one we just installed is like 2503. So it's a huge jump. So that means somehow Windows and then that hardware actually got desynced in a sense that Windows was looking for a version of something that wasn't on here yet. Weird times, but I'm not gonna hold that against Intel because honestly, to do this right, it should be a fresh install. But I have moved this drive between 5 or 6 different systems now. So I'm going to be very mindful of any quirks that I'm seeing, if that's related to the fact that this OS has jumped around between so much different hardware versus what I think is platform related. Another thing I'm doing too is I'm making sure I remove any trace of any of the AMD stuff that was on here previously by using Revo Uninstaller. And just making sure that all those registries are cleaned and cleared of anything AMD, because I don't want that to be a part of it. So anyway, yeah, please tell me what you guys want me to be like looking out for in this whole, is Intel really as terrible as everyone says? Other than just, does it do games better or worser? Because we already know it's worser, right? That's probably triggering people by saying worster. Worser, almost as much as saying moist.
Bro, your desktop's so unorganized.
It like sneezed icons. It's like, achoo, and the icons are just, what the hell? There, okay, that helps.